a constant contributor to the channel, so let's give him a warm welcome. Justin McRay is back. What's going on, Justin?
How you doing?
Man, appreciate you coming here, but I'm glad that we linked up today because we wanted to talk about something that's real important. So that's weighing heavy on both our minds because we worried about where boxing is headed and the state of boxing. So I wanted to get your thoughts. It was announced today that UFC and Paramount signed a 7-year, $7 billion deal that will begin basically at the beginning of 2026. And basically, they have something that's different from regular boxing called UPO. So basically, it's saying that they basically can find loopholes around the Muhammad Ali Act. So I wanted to come straight to you so I can get some clarity because I wanted to get a better understanding of what's going on. So that's why me and you linked up so you can explain to people what's going on. So, do your thing, Justin. Have at it. The floor is yours.
I mean, if we're speaking on trying to change the Muhammad Ali Act as the current president of the Professional Boxing League, that's a no-go. I mean, I think that union, I mean, that initiative, that law was put in place for a particular reason, for a specific reason. And that was just to make sure that promoters and everybody stay in their lane and everybody do what they supposed to do. So I don't understand how new people, novice, people that really aren't experienced, come in with money and feel like they could just change the game. It's not cool. And I'm going to be lobbying against that and getting the boxers together to whereas we could fight that because really who is gonna have a profound effect on is the C and D fighters, the fighters who aren't signed exclusively to promoters. The ones that are signed exclusively to promoters, they have a package. They're pretty much taken care of. But the guys that the promoters use to build those guys up to become world champions, what about them? So we don't need anybody coming in with no experience and no empathy for these boxers coming in and trying to change the sport and trying to nuke the game. It just ain't cool, man. I don't respect that. I don't like that. And furthermore, if you're using TKO's name, I don't knock TKO, but TKO is a company that really made their bread off of using the C and D fighter or the up and coming talent down there in the Gulf Coast. So I mean, like, I heard Turkey bought that company. Am I right?
I would have to
I think
do
so.
more research.
Turkey bought it, but TKO is a Gulf Coast company, a promotional company. And like I said, they pretty much specialized in building C and D fighters up to get to the big promoters or up and coming. So the thing of it is, man, like I said, this is not cool because it'll affect those fighters that aren't signed exclusively to a promoter.
Okay, so what do you think of Dana White basically just coming out of nowhere? Basically, I know he tried to dip into boxing a few times, but what do you think about him now that it feels like he has the financial backing and now it feels like he's basically trying to make his own rules as he go along, basically like how Canelo used to create his own weight class, and it seemed like he just trying to create his own rules, and it's just like he's coming in here basically stepping on people's toes who've been doing this for a while, who got 50 years in the game, like Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn got 20 years, Oscar got 20 years. And how do you think something like this happened? Where did we get to the point to where Dana White could just come out of nowhere and be able to do what he's attempting to do now? And who do you blame for this?
I mean, you can't blame anybody for it, but as a 25-year vet in the game, I feel like Bob Arum, De La Hoya, Al Heyman, Eddie Hearn, and all the guys that work in unison with them, including the boxers. We all need to come together I mean, and show them that just because you have money, that doesn't mean you can come in and dominate a sport. And that what he's doing is using Turkey's money, to come in and try to dominate the sport that Bob Arum them kind of pushed him out. And they pushed him out for a reason. It's not. I mean, they moved him out of the way for a reason. And what I'm seeing honestly is that he's trying to put together cheap paydays for boxers, and that's not cool, man. Boxers always been taken advantage of, and at the end of the day, they make millions of dollars, and then they don't see anything. We don't need any more of that. We don't need anybody exploiting and taking away from the sport. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna make the sport better, figure out ways to make the sport better. Coming out trying to undo something that was done for the better of boxing, that's not cool. So I want them to keep the Ali Act the same. Now, it's things that need to be added to it, I feel, but that is that's the foundation right there of guidelines of having promoters and managers and everybody in check, to abide by rules, to make them exempt from these rules. It's just not cool.
Let me ask you this, Jay. Do you think one of the reasons why Dana White slid in, because you heard Dana White constantly talking about that the public wasn't getting the fights that they wanted to see and it was taking too long to make these fights. Do you think now, based off the fact that me and you both witnessed to a certain aspect, you've been in this business longer than me, but you showed me some stuff that I wasn't aware of, but do you think, based off the fact that you had the Cold Wars with the promotional companies and it took too long to get certain fights made, do you think this is another reason why Dana White was able to creep in, because you had the Cold War with Al Heyman, Golden Boy, and basically Top Rank, and you had fights that people were clamoring for and we just couldn't get them made for whatever reason. We couldn't get Wilder and Anthony Joshua made when it was the best time to make that fight. It took a little too long to make Spence and Crawford. So now, do you think, based off the fact that these promotional companies refused to work with each other, it basically came back to haunt them? Do you think that played a role in it? And then, based off the fact that CBS gets rid of professional boxing and then turns right back around and brings back in mixed martial arts. What's your thought?
Well, I'm not gonna say that Dana crept in. Yeah, he did creep in. He used Turkey's situation to captivate Turkey, and used his UFC situation to captivate Turkey. That's how we crept back in. But I mean, like, in terms of the right fights take time. So you might feel that, or I might feel, or somebody else might feel that the fights aren't getting made in a timely manner. These fights take time. You have two people that gotta come together. You know what I'm saying? To meet. They not the same mind. It's different minds. You know what I'm saying? So, the fans, have to be patient sometimes. Because this is a big business, and it takes time to make these events and to make these bouts. So I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it came back to haunt them. It's just they are working together though now. I mean, we are seeing that. But I feel like Turkey just Dana White just used Turkey's situation to creep back in. Because he sees that Turkey really don't know boxing, and this is what happens, floating around, meeting with different promoters. Not different promoters, but when I was meeting with different millionaires, multi-millionaires, trying to build me a boxing promotional company, I would meet with different millionaires, and they had already, like, a promotional company idea already came across them by somebody I might know. And it's always a situation where they getting milked, or they got milked, to whereas, like, they don't want to enter boxing. They don't want to do anything with boxing. You know what I'm saying? So that's just a situation where Dana White hustled up on some OPM or OPM situation, or other people money type situation. You know, but like I said, if Al, if Eddie, if Top Rank, Bob, De La Hoya, if they all come together cohesively, Lynn Vlotnick owns DAZN. They all come together. He got more money than Turkey, just as much. They all come together. I think they can make a stance.
It seemed like they headed in that direction. Now it seemed like Oscar said, "Hey, I'm willing to work with Al Heyman. We're considering putting together a supercard Top Rank versus PBC." And I'm thinking to myself, finally. And I understand what you were saying about
Take time.
like
Everything don't
yeah.
just we antsy. We on the outside looking in. We're antsy. And you have to look at it like these boxers. They come. Once they capture a title, they're at a stage in their career where they're trying to secure their the rest of their life. Their livelihood. You know what I'm saying? So they're not gonna take any kind of money. So everything has to be right. And then we have to think of this too. Somebody has to put the money up for these fights, right?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, we always say or think that who gonna put the money up? So we not putting it up, right? So that means we got to wait till it's the right deal to whereas we can see this fight. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let me ask you this. You spoke on basically the promoters and you broke it down about how boxing works. Do you think as fans, do you think maybe we can also blame the fighters too? Because at the end of the day, the fighters got to sign the contract. It's just like you said, we can sit up there and ask the promoters to make the fights if we want all we want. But if we can't get the fighters to cooperate, do you think we need to start paying more attention or directing our attentions towards the fighters? Because look what happened with Canelo. Refused to fight David Benavidez for whatever reason, and we just, it took, like I said,
And he threw a tremendous number out there that he knew that nobody would. But this happens.
200 million.
But I told you this before. We've talked about this before on a lower scale. When fights don't happen, typically it's because the money ain't right. That's the key element in the business part of it. The money don't be right. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody not putting up enough money. But yeah, the money plays a tremendous part. And you could throw an astronomical figure out there that you're not really worth because you're not worth it, and you know that they're not gonna honor it.
I don't think no fighter's worth 200 million. I don't care. I don't care who they are.
But think about it though. If I put up 200 million, shouldn't I be able to make my money back and a profit though?
If you put up,
do fighters look at it like that? Do you look at it like that? If I put up 25 million, shouldn't I be able to make the money back and a percentage on top of my money?
and also you expecting to sell a certain amount of pay-per-views. So
that's the way I make my money back through pay-per-view. That's the major revenue stream. I'm not gonna make my money back off ticket sales alone. The largest gate, was 20 million or something like that? Ticket sale wise, live gate.
I think the largest live gate was Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, and then second Floyd and Conor McGregor.
But what was that? 20 million, maybe 25.
I would have to, because somebody in the comment section.
They didn't do 40 though. I don't think
somebody in the comment section put up what was the gate for Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd, and what was Floyd
Let's
versus
ask Google. Google's our friend.
But they saying those were the top two biggest gates.
Jake Paul, Mike Tyson? No, that's gotta be wrong. And it has 18.1 million. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. It might be though. And I'm not gonna respect. I'm not gonna respect that because that wasn't a real box. I love Mike Tyson.
Well, be careful. AI is inaccurate because I could tell you right now. They said Odell Beckham Jr. has never won a Super Bowl, and he was on that Super Bowl team when the Rams defeated basically the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right, Conor McGregor, $54 million. That's what it's saying.
And they saying $71 million for Floyd versus Manny Pacquiao. That's what somebody put in the comment section. So
yeah, I'm seeing number one right now. And that could be true.
Well, they were charging people 15 a head. So it did.
Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, 17.1. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, 17.8. Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather, 19 million. Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo, 20 million. Let's see. Errol Spence versus Crawford, 21. Oh, that's in there. That's the top 6. That's pretty good, Crawford. Davis versus Ryan Garcia, 22.8. Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin, 23.5. Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin, 27.1. Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, 55.4. And then it must be Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, 72.2 million. That's good. But what I'm trying to say is you're not going to recoup that money back on all those fights. These are super fights. These are combined. Both opponents are pay-per-view draws. So it's not like lopsided, where it's one is a draw and one is not. You know what I'm saying? And you use pay-per-view to recoup your money. Once you get over $4 million on a bout, you have to look for other revenue streams other than ticket sales. And pay-per-view is the other revenue streams that you use. That's why I don't understand how Turkey is suggesting or saying that we're going to do away with pay-per-view. Do he understand what pay-per-view means? It's another revenue stream to take care of to recoup all the monies for the whole event. That's what a pay-per-view means. And then you got the ticket sales, and then you got the sponsors. You know what I'm saying? All of those things, all of those 3 things I just mentioned are how you recoup, how you make money from boxing. So just because you got a lot of money, you're not interested in making no money back. That's damaging the sport. You should look at it like a legitimate business. I don't understand why Turkey doesn't do that. And people say, oh yeah, he got money and this and that. They gonna ride the train. That's cool. But then later on, it's gonna affect the next wave of boxers that's coming in. The Zone kind of did it, over there. They messed it up for a minute, coming in throwing out tremendous money. The guy Len Vlatnik that owns the Zone, worth about 30-something billion. Owns Warner Brothers and stuff like that. I mean, you can't just dominate the game because you got money. You gotta have some know-how. You gotta have a complete infrastructure of staff to, that's very knowledgeable in the game. You gotta have key people that know the shit. Can't just come in and think your money gonna make it move.
So how do we fix it?
I'm gonna keep it real with you. People probably ain't gonna like this. I say fix it. We go back to the old HBO Showtime ways. And you had a promoter. See, back in those days, before you could be showcased on HBO or Showtime, the promoters had to build you up to be 15 and 0, 20 and 0, to fight on Boxing After Dark, on HBO, to fight on Showbox. before you make it to championship status. You had 3 tiers. You had Boxing After Dark, showed up and coming talent,
Yeah, I
10,
remember
15
that.
and 0. Then you have World Championship Boxing on HBO side, which when you become a champ, you're gonna make the undercard first of a World Championship event. Then you have pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is the top. And on Showtime on the other side,
Showbox.
Showbox. They had Showbox for the up and coming talent. Then they had Showtime Championship Boxing. Then they had Showtime pay per view. You know what I'm saying? Which Showtime was always a little lower tier. They did lower tier fights than HBO. HBO was the top. And then you had ESPN that showed a lot of the up and coming talent too, because they had a very scarce budget. They had a low budget. Promoters had to use that 50 grand, 100 grand, or 75 grand that they were giving them to facilitate a whole card. So the promoters hustled back then. They got site fees from casinos. They hustled to build the talent up. Today, they're doing partnerships with ESPN. So ESPN is giving them a budget of $60 million, and they don't have to do small shows no more. And see what those small shows do. They build the fighter up. Doing a small show helps the fighter get built like he's supposed to get built. Because he might do him in a 5,000 seat arena, but he might sell that. You turn around, you do him in a bigger arena, he sell 8. Then he turn around, he sell 10 in a particular city. You can always go back to that city and sell 10,000 seats, and 10,000 seats at $100 average, that's $1 million. That pay for some things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that way is gone. We got to get back to that old way is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Where the promoters actually go out there and do the work and put the work into building the talent.
I miss the days of USA Boxing.
USA Boxing. Another one, Brad Jacobs, COO of Top Rank, my mentor. He was the guy that, brought, had showcased Floyd Mayweather early in his career, Roy Jones early in his career. A lot of other fighters.
Up and coming De La Hoya.
Yeah. Tuesday night fights. Those fights came on Tuesday night fights on a regular cable channel. So we need to get back to that. We need a main conduit like that. And then ESPN was the other one. ESPN was the Friday night fights. They showed all the up and coming talent. So if they get back to that way, I think that if things will change. And the fighters the lower fighters deserve to get more. The C and D fighters, like I said, the fighters that aren't getting signed exclusively to a promoter and they fight a promoter's talent, they should get monies in a pension for them on top of a purse. And if they choose to put money from their check into a pension, they will. But the promoter should put 10% gross purse into a pension for them of the promoter's money, just for utilizing that talent. You know what I'm saying? And pay them the purse.
Okay, so me and you both know, and me and you knew about this. Actually, me and you knew about this before it actually went public. But as you know, ESPN did their last fight with Top Rank on July the 26th. But then it was announced, like maybe a week and a half later, that they would be bringing in the WWE wrestling. And I'm thinking to myself, me and you both know that wrestling, well, the outcome is wrestling is like basically scripted. I mean,
it's fake.
So
it's fake.
I was like, I just like trying to fan him.
They might as well let Jake Paul come in.
Hey, be careful, Jake Paul. He threatening to sue anybody that accuse him of having fights that's where the outcome is predetermined. So Jake Paul is threatening legal action against content creators that's saying his fights are fixed. I mean, I'm trying to figure out. He's gonna have a lot of people to sue.
The thing of it is with Jake Paul, man, you came up off YouTube and that's cool. We don't knock your hustle. The thing of it is, what about them boxers that have 40 amateur fights? What about them guys, man? Why you don't go pick those guys up and put those guys on and help them put them on the cards? Let them get paid. You know, that's how you do it though. If you want to give back to the sport, go get those guys that don't make that much money and get them a payday. Let them eat. You're doing a massive pay-per-view card. Typically a pay-per-view card that you do, you could facilitate 8 fights under you. You know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of work. You know, so but I mean, I think the thing with ESPN, what I would have done if I was an executive at ESPN, I wouldn't have ended the deal with Top Rank, but I would have kept the relationship to whereas like how HBO did. HBO had a relationship with Bob. It had a relationship with multiple promotional companies. So they allow promotional companies to pitch them dates. Not dates, pitch them bouts, matchups, and then they'll come back with a date for them. When Lou DiBella was there, Kerry Davis, those guys managed the budget, and they pitched the dates to the promoters of the matchups. I think that old way needs to come back. That way, you have the opportunity to work with different promoters. You're not set on work. You're not doing exclusive with one promoter. That was the thing with ESPN. You know, I think if they go back to that way, I think it'll be good. You know, just deal with different multiple promoters.
So do you think the best thing for these promoters to do instead of signing exclusive deals, you think they should just be able to just do a fight by fight basis? You think that would better the sport instead
Yes. Because you know what, Joe? It'll make the promoters dig deep and bring some fights of substance. You know, a fight of a tremendous magnitude, and that'll make the networks, you know, get on it, you know, and negotiate it. You know what I'm saying? That old way needs to come back.
Yeah, because I seen something.
You lock yourself in. Unless you just deal with a promoter that has an array of talent, and that means you're gonna analyze. If you do a multi-deal like they've done with ESPN, you have to look at the stable, and then you got to think in that stable is some of those fighters gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? Because if they leave, that's gone. You know what I mean? So I think the best thing is for them to do a deal with different promoters. So don't do no exclusive, but just have it open where if it's an attractive fight, you got an ear. You're giving an ear to a promoter, giving you an attractive fight. And I think we can get it like that. And I think DAZN needs to do that. See, Eddie Hearn, I think, is partners with DAZN. I think that's kind of a bad thing, because then it doesn't give Bob, it doesn't give Al, it doesn't give all the other promoters action that coming in when they got more talent than Eddie combined. You know what I'm saying? And they're not going to be able to get, the zone is not going to be able to get those fights because they have a kind of exclusive with Eddie. You know what I mean? Makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk some boxing, some upcoming events, and then I want to talk about something that, you know, me and you just spoke about, because we gonna end basically, you know, the interview with what I plan on letting you just cook on. But first, all right, so we got Bud and Canelo. You're gonna be there, right?
Yeah, I'm going to the fight.
So what do you see happening with that fight? Because like I said, I find myself like seeing so many different scenarios. I see a scenario where Bud can pull this off, and then I also see a scenario where Canelo's size and his power could become a factor, and it can eventually wear Bud down. But then I see a scenario where Bud plays it safe. He fights smart. He fights good enough to keep the crowd engaged, and he wins a lopsided. You see, decision.
That's what I think. I say box. I say box. Make Canelo work. Because Canelo take off rounds if you notice. You know, he learned, he know how, he's sharp, he know how to do it. So stay busy and just stay on him and get a unanimous decision. If the knockout's there, it's there. If it's not, don't worry about it. You go in your bag and show all your ability. Because Crawford he could fight on both sides. He could do whatever he wants to do on both sides. That's southpaw or right hand. You know? So go in your bag and show him some shit he ain't never seen before. That's what I say. And be victorious in the process of doing that.
So basically, don't get caught up in the hype.
Don't try to knock him out. Don't try to slug with him. Just box him. That's all you got to do. You want to win anyway. That's all you want to do is win. You want to beat him. You ain't got to knock him out. You know what I'm saying? Just beat him. And if the knockout's there, it's there. If it's not, don't worry about it. Pile those rounds up.
Do you think Bud can, based off some of the stuff we've seen with Canelo, where Canelo has been the beneficiary of some questionable decisions, do you think Bud can get a decision? Because if you look at the fight with Bibble dominated Canelo. But for some reason, they had that fight. They found a way to give Canelo 5 rounds in that fight, and many people with common sense and somebody like you with expertise on boxing, at the very minimum, being generous with Canelo, they had him winning maybe 3 rounds.
Bud has to take that into consideration and be obvious. Just be obvious. When I say obvious, dominate. Punch output, dominate. You know.
All right, so Jay, before we go, I gotta ask you your thoughts on this. I've been really disappointed in some of these content creators, and for the most part, I'm gonna name names. Terrence Crawford and Devin Haney have never tested positive for any type of PEDs, but here's the thing. It's been several fighters that's with Robert Garcia that happen to be of Mexican descent that are with Snack. But for some strange reason, only Bud and Devin Haney has been accused of using PEDs. And me and you, we both come from a street background. It's like, come on, man. It's like, if you get a pack, there's no difference. The pack is going to be the same. It's not like me, when you break down the pack, this amount is the good stuff, right, and then the other stuff is the bad stuff. It's coming from the same pack. So either it's bad or it's good. Right. But I've been really disappointed in particularly these black content creators. And I'm naming names. I usually don't name names for the most part, but in particularly the culprit who been basically ragging on Terrence Crawford for years with no proof. For non-boxing, has just flat out accused Terrence Crawford of using PEDs with no proof. And it got to the point to where Bud sent him a cease and desist, and it's been some other dudes, the bug-eyed dude. I don't want to say his name. You know who I'm talking about, the bug-eyed dude that looked like Garfield the cat. Then the other dude, the dude with the big glasses from the East Coast that's supposed to be a manager, and we trying to figure out who the fuck he managed. They have flat out desecrated and slandered Terrence Crawford's name. And the sad part about it is they brothers like me and you, but the only one they didn't said is using PEDs is a black fighter. So I wanted to get your take. I just wanted you to say whatever is on your mind about that, because the shit really got me heated. And I told you I've been mad about this because I'm trying to figure out, Caleb Plant is a Snack client, and so is Mikey Garcia, and a few other people, and Virgil Ortiz. But for some reason, only the brothers is the ones that's on PD. So I'm gonna let you cook, man.
So you're saying that the brothers are the ones on the PEDs, but you have brothers that are content creators saying this. Interesting. I mean, like I said, man, we need to stop having people come into the sport and making money off the sport and damaging the sport. If they got tested and it came back that they were on steroids, then you print it. Then you do content on it. You talk about it. But if that hasn't happened, to make accusations like that, that's not right. You know, we just need to stop this. You know, we need to stop doing it for clicks, because that's basically what it is. You know, when you get when you get clicks, you get money, right? When you get subscriptions, you get money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we need to stop pushing false propaganda. You know, that's just not cool.
And it hurt JB.
And people do it because they fall in love with a particular fighter, and then they get mad because that fighter hasn't has beat the fighter that they're in love with. Yeah, so that's basically what it is, man. They fall in love with a fighter, and then, you know, a fighter come along and beat their fighter, so they figure out ways to push that false propaganda, you know. But yeah, like I said, we don't need nobody coming along damaging the sport. It needs to stop, you know.
So do you think what Bud is doing, coming after these dudes, is the right thing to do?
I mean, you know, I wouldn't pay it no attention if I was Bud, but I wouldn't give it no energy, you know. But sometimes people need to be stopped and they need to be put in their place, and that, you know, and that's who Bud is, you know. So if that's what he's doing, so be it, you know. My power to him.
All right, Jay. So tell everybody how to get in contact with you, because the powers that be, they rushing us. But tell everybody how to tap in with you.
Well, I mean, I'm on Facebook, Professional Boxing Union. You know, you can tap in there, or you can tap in on Instagram, PBU Biz, PBU IBZ. Excuse me, PBU BIZ on Instagram. That's how you get it.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
No